Hey guys, welcome to Tech Ginger. My name is Nunya and today we are going to be talking about Supabase. So I've been hearing a lot of good things about Supabase, so I decided to give it a try this weekend, and believe me, I enjoyed the developer experience. So if you look at the Supabase website, it says build in a weekend, scale to millions, and I can tell you that this statement is very true, right? Especially the build in a weekend part. I was surprised at the amount of time it took me to implement basic authentication with Vue 3 and with Supabase, right? It was very fast and quick, and I really enjoyed the developer experience. So I made a video about how to set up a Supabase project with a Vue project, Vue 3, and how to implement some basic authentication. So just some sign in, sign up with an email and a password. So without wasting your time, let's get right into it. Alright, so when you head to supabase.com, you have access to the Supabase website. And if I go to products, I get access to the full list of services that Supabase provides. So database authentication, storage, edge functions, and many more. Supabase can work with many applications, many frameworks, and it makes a list of that over here. So Next.js, React, Svelte, Vue, Flutter, and Next.js. So there are other frameworks that this platform can work with, right? And you get access to many things. Database authentication, as I mentioned, and yeah, it has a huge community following at the meantime. So I got to know about Supabase through Twitter. Alright, so let's get on into setting up our Supabase project with Vue. So when you head on to the documentation, it gives you a list of instructions that you can follow, but then we are going to ignore this first instruction, which says set up a Supabase project with some sample data. We don't need some sample data to start out with, right? So we are going to move on to the next steps, which says create a Vue application. So over here you have the instructions to create a Vue application. So I've already done that because I wanted to add in some styling to the project. So when I set up the project, I added in some tailwind so that we could see some styling on the sign up and the sign in forms. So over here on this repo, I'm going to leave the link in the description. I have set up a project. So the main branch contains the final project, and the project setup branch contains only the project setup. So this is just a Vue 3 setup with tailwind, nothing more. I've not added Supabase yet, and I'm going to do that in the next step. So let's clone this project. I'm going to copy the URL and head to my terminal. I'm going to cd into my toots folder, and then I'm going to do a git clone. Once the project clones, we are going to open up the project in our IDE. So I'm going to drag the project to my favorite IDE, which is VS Code. Make that a bit bigger for you guys, and then we are going to open up the integrated terminal and run npm install to install the dependencies. Now I mentioned earlier that I have two branches, so the main branch and the project setup branch. So I'm going to do a git fetch origin to get all the branches, and I'm going to do a git checkout project setup to branch to that particular branch. Okay, so I am here now, and we can use this branch to work our way into setting up a Vue project. So we have the Vue project set up, and the next thing to do is to basically run this project. So I'm going to say npm run dev and copy the URL, paste it in here, and that's it. So it just says hello Supabase. So let me walk you through the project. Okay, so I have the basic project setup. We have the app.vue, which is the base or the parent component, and we have the router view nested in here. So we are going to have the various routes showing inside this component. So if we go to the router, I just have a basic setup, so just a home route, a home view route for now. So this is the home view components that you can see over here. So it's just something basic. Let me close this. So it's just something basic, right? So we have the home view route. We are going to modify this to suit what we want. So the next step is basically to head on to the Supabase website and create an account. Okay, so we are here on the Supabase website. You can click on sign in and sign in if you already have an account. If you don't have an account, you have to go to sign up now, and you can choose to use GitHub to sign in. That is what I prefer, or you can use your email and password to sign in. So I'm going to go back and click on continue with GitHub to sign in. So after we sign in, the next thing we are supposed to do is to create a Supabase project, right? So to create a new project, you just have to click on this new project, which is on your dashboard, choose your organization, and then give it a project name. So for the project name, I'm going to say Supabase Auth, and for the database password, I'm just going to click on generate a password to generate an automatic password. I'm going to copy that and paste it somewhere safe. Okay, so for the region, I'm going to choose London. I just like choosing regions that are closer to me. Click on create new project to create the project for me. So this is going to take some time to run. So once this is setting up, we have to just go to the documentation and follow the rest of the steps. So the next step is to install the Supabase client library, and we can do this by running npm install at supabase.js. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to head on to my IDE, open the terminal, and I'm going to pull this down a bit, open another terminal, and then I can paste in that command and wait for it to install. So we are installing the Supabase client, which is going to allow us to access the Supabase API to create our project. Okay, so that is done installing. Let me head on to the website to check if the project is done setting up. It's not done setting up. I'm going to just hold on for it to set up. Okay, it is done now, and this is a page you're going to see if your project is done setting up. So now that we have this, we can go on to configure our Vue.js project to connect to our Supabase project. Okay, so this is fun. Alright, so to configure your Vue.js project to connect to your Supabase project, you just have to create a supabase.js file, supabase.js file inside the SRC folder and hit enter, right? And if I head on to the documentation, you realize that it gives us some code on how to set up. So you just have to import the Supabase client, which I'm going to do, and then you create this variables to access the basic key and the project URL. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and paste it into my project, and I'm going to go on and copy the Supabase key and paste that over here, right? So its value is going to be this long string over here. So I'm going to copy that and paste that right here, right? I'm going to create a string and paste that right here, but this is not the right way to do it. You can't have your key inside your project, right? So you have to create an environmental variable file. So I'm going to say .env, and because this is a vit project or a vite project, depending on how you mention it, I'm going to create two variables. So the first one is going to be for the base URL, and the second one is going to be for the key that I just pasted, right? Remember, you're not supposed to keep your key in your code. If someone has access to that key, then they can do things with your database. They can have access to your database, and that is not a good thing to do. So I'm going to go on over here, and I'm going to basically clear this key that I pasted here, go back to the documentation, copy that key, and paste it over here. Okay, so we have that, and the next thing is the Supabase URL, which I'm just going to copy from here, in fact cut it and then paste it over here, right? So we have two variables, so the Supabase URL and the key. Okay, so once we have that, what you can do is to basically call those variables over here. So I'm going to just import that. So I'm going to say import Supabase URL, and then the second one is going to be the anonymous key, right here. So that's how we named it, and then we are calling it right here. So after you have done this, the next thing is to basically export this variable. So I'm going to say export const and say Supabase, and then we are going to call this create client method. So I'm going to copy this, paste it over here, and then inside this method I'm going to pass in the Supabase URL, and the second parameter is going to be the Supabase key. So yeah, we have that set up well, and then we can move on to the next step. Okay, so the next step is basically to create the components that we are going to be working in. So in this video I'm going to be talking about how to do some basic authentication. So this is not going to be into details, I'm just showing you how to set up your Vue project and how to just do some basic authentication. So I'm going to the views folder and we are going to create two new files. So I'm going to say sign in.vue and I'm going to say sign up.vue. Okay, sign up.vue. Okay, that looks right. So as I mentioned earlier, I have some piece of code that is just a basic sign in form, and I have one tool for the sign up. So I'm going to grab that and then paste that here. So don't worry about this. This is just some tailwind styles that I'm adding to make it a bit nice. So we have a form, we have some inputs for email, and we have an input for password, right? So this is the input for password. So this is just going to be our sign up form, and then we have a sign up button. And for the sign in, we have a form, we have an input for email, we have an input for password, and we have a sign in button. Nothing serious, this is just some basic stuff. Okay, so I'm going to open up the terminal and I'm going to say npm. Oh, okay, we already have this running, so we can view how our pages look like. So if I so I can't go to any route over there in the browser now, so I'm going to go on to the router file and we are going to create some routes. Okay, so we want to create the various routes. I'm going to just comment this back, and then we are going to make a few changes. So I'm going to call this sign in, and its name is going to be sign in, and the file is sign in.vue. That's how we named it. And we are going to create another one. This is basically going to be for the sign up, but then I'm going to leave this as slash because that's the first page that we want to see. Changes to sign up, and then do a sign up over here, sign up.vue. So for this first route, I'm going to change it to home. So we want to view this component. So if we sign up and we sign in, we want to view this component, right? So if I head on to the browser, the page is not showing up, and I guess it's because we have some little errors in here. Okay, so let me just go on and reload my server, because we added in some environmental variables and I just want this to properly load up. Okay, so we have the sign up form showing over here, and if I go to /sign in, then we have the sign in form showing over here, and if I go to home, then we have the app saying hello Supabase. So let's go on and add in the authentication. So we are going to start with sign up. Okay, so I'm excited and let's get this going. So I'm going to go on to sign up and we are going to create our script tag. So I'm going to say script. No, I don't want that. I'm going to say script, and then I'm going to clear all of this because I'm going to use the new syntax sugar for creating Vue projects composition API. So I'm going to just write in setup over here and I'm going to continue. So let's import some stuff and let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to create an email variable, and this is a ref, and then we are going to create for password. So this is going to hold the user's password, which is also a ref, and we have to import ref from Vue. Okay, so we have this setup, and we have to create some v models to actually bind the variables to the inputs that the user is going to type. So I'm going to say v model and say email, and say v model and say password. Okay, so we have collected whatever the user will type, and then we have kind of bind it to these two variables, so email and password. Okay, so now that we have that set up, I'm going to go on and also import Supabase. So I'm going to say import Supabase from the configuration that we created, Supabase, which is right here. Right, remember we exported Supabase, called the create client method, and passed in the Supabase URL and the Supabase key. So this is what we are going to use to connect to the project that we created on the Supabase site. So I'm going to go back to sign up, and we are going to use this Supabase method to create a sign up for the user. Okay, so I'm going to say const handle sign up. I'm going to say it's an asynchronous function and creates the arrow function. Okay, so I'm going to say try and then put my catch block over here. Okay, so let me just create this for the meantime, and let's go on to connect or sign up the user. So I'm going to say const and grab the error, and then I'm going to say await. I'm going to explain what I'm doing. I'm going to say supabase.auth, right, .sign up, so we can access the sign up method from the Supabase API. Okay, and then inside here I can pass in the email and say email.value, and I can say password and say password.value. Right, so over here we can catch the error or we can catch the data, but for this example I'm going to be catching the error so that I can throw the error if the operation didn't go on well. I'm going to save this to format it, and I'm going to say if we have an error, then we want to basically just throw error. I'm going to change this to an O, and then I'm going to catch an error and say alert, I'm going to say alert, and basically just say error.message. Okay, so that's what we want to do. Right, so I'm going to save this to format it well. So now we just have to call this handle sign up function inside the template. So I'm going to go on over here, and since we have this form, the type is submit, I'm going to put the call over here. So I'm going to say at handle at click, we want to call the handle sign up method. So I think basically this is it for creating this sign up process for a user. So this is just straightforward, and we can go on to test this, but this I want to put in this, right? So I'm going to say import router from, and we go into the router folder and call the file index, right? So what I want to do is that after this process is successful, and if there's no error, I want to say router.push and then push the user to the sign in page. So navigate the user to the sign in page. So I'm going to do this, right? And then I guess this works. So before we test this, let's go on to the sign in page and let's implement the sign in process for the user so that it is seamless. After the user signs up, they can sign in and then we move them to the home page. So I'm going to create the script. I'm going to basically go to this part and then I'm going to copy all of this, paste it in here, and we are going to change a few things. So the first thing we are going to do is to bind the user input to the value. So we are binding email to email, and then we go here and say vmodel and we say password, right? Okay, so we have that, right? So whatever email the person types in will be bounded to this, and whatever password the person types in will be bounded to this. We are going to change this to sign in. Okay, and then it's basically the same process, but then we are going to say auth.sign in with password. So that is the method that you call so that you are able, so that is the method that Supabase provides you with. So if you call this method, it is going to sign the person in with a password, and after everything is successful, we want to push the person to the home page. So I'm going to say home. Okay, so we have handle sign in, and I think everything looks great over here. Okay, so the last thing to do is to call the handle sign in method. So I'm going to go to the top of the form and say at click I want to do handle sign in. So I'm going to change this to at submit. Sorry guys, it's at submit rather. So at submit, and I'm going to call .prevent to prevent the page from refreshing, and I'm going to go on to the sign up page and do the same thing, right? Submit, and I do .prevent to prevent the default action from happening. So guys, this is it. This is just basically how to sign up with an email and password. You just have to call the sign up API from Supabase and you can assign a user app. And if you go to sign in, you just have to do the same thing, right? So dot slash nope, dot slash, yeah, and then go here, do the same thing, dot slash, right? So this is just basically how to create the sign up with password. Let me just check. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's go on to test this now. I'm going to move on to the browser. I'm going to go to the home route. We have the form over here, so let's test this to see how this works. I'm going to open up the console and let me make this a bit bigger. Clear this, and then we are going to be looking at the network to see if everything works well. So I'm going to say nuniaka@gmail.com and type in my password, right? And then I'm going to say sign up. So yes, it's successfully signed up. You can see that we have a status response of 200, and if I open this app and go to the response, you are going to realize that everything was successful and then we had some data back. So this is the response that we got. So Supabase gives you a bunch of data that you can work with. The email, it gives you a bunch of other data, it creates an ID for you and all of that, right? So after we signed up, the page automatically moved us to the sign in page because that is how we set it up to be. So if I go in and type my password and try to sign in, well, it doesn't work because I have to confirm my email. So it tells me email not confirm. So I'm going to move on to my email and I'm going to click on that email and I'm going to confirm the mail. So after I confirm the mail, it moves me back to the sign up page. So you can properly set this up to move the user to the page that you want the user to be redirected to after the person confirms their email, because we are just playing around with this, we get redirected to the sign up page. So I'm just going to click on OK, and since I have confirmed my email, I'm going to try to sign in again. I'm going to hit on sign in, and then this time it works, and then we have moved to the Hello Supabase page. So if I come over here to this was a request, and inside the response we can see Supabase generates a token for us. It tells us the token type, it tells us when it expires, and the number of milliseconds before it expires, or the number of minutes before it expires. It gives us a refresh token. It gives us some information about the user. It generates an ID, the email. It tells you whether the email is confirmed, and a lot of response data that you can use in your application. You didn't have to write a whole back-end service to do this, right? You didn't have to create a service, an email service that checks if the user email is actually correct, right? Supabase does all this for you, and that is what I really loved about Supabase. Okay, so we are almost done. So you realize that when we signed up and we went to our email to confirm the email that we used for the sign up, we were brought back, or we were redirected to the sign up page, and that is not very ideal, right? So I'm going to go to the Supabase docs, and then we are going to see if we can get something to redirect us to probably a home page, right? So if I go to authentication, I get to see the various types of authentication over here, and I'm going to click on email login. And then if I scroll down, okay, right here we have options, right? So you can provide options, and you can provide an email to redirect to. Okay, so we are going to try this, but before I do so, I'm going to go to our home page, and then I'm going to try to modify this a bit. So let me just quickly copy some code I have over here, and then paste it inside our home view. So I'm going to paste that over here, and I'm going to explain what I have done. So this is simply some modification to the home page. So if I refresh, then you would see that modification. So it's just saying hello Supabase with a logout button over here. So with Supabase, how you do logout is to simply call the sign out method from the Supabase API. So I'm basically importing Supabase, and I'm importing our router, and then writing a function. So this function basically calls the sign out method from Supabase, and then I push the user to the sign in page. So after the user signs out, I push the user, or I redirect the user to a sign in page, right? And also one thing I have to say is that, let me put a prevent over here. This method is called when I click the logout button, so it calls the sign out method. Okay, so let's return to the documentation, and let's take a look at that method that we saw. So options and email redirect to. Okay, so let me go back to the code, and if a user signs up, we want to redirect the user to the home page after he confirms his email. So I'm going to put that options over here, and I'm going to say email redirect to, and because we are working with the local host, I'm just going to provide the path to the local host. So I'm going to say http and then localhost, and then we are going to say 5173 and /home. So that is the path or the URL that we want to be redirected to. So let me go back and sign in, and let's see if this works. Okay, so I'm going to go to, okay, let me go back and sign up. I'm going to type my password again, and then hit on sign up, and then hopefully, yeah, this works. So we have a status of 200. I'm going to go back to my email, and then I'm going to confirm that. So I have to mention that I've already deleted my user from this dashboard, and over here on the dashboard, on the Supabase dashboard, you can see that it's waiting for verification. So over here on the Supabase dashboard, we can see that this particular user, ninyakla@gmail.com, we are waiting for verification. So if you're having a bunch of users, you can see the ones that have verified their emails and the ones that have not verified their emails with their emails. So Supabase provides you with a dashboard that you can get the data of your users, and that is very great, right? And also, you don't have to configure any backend service to send your users an email after they have signed up to your platform, right? Supabase does that out of the box for you, and that is one of the features I love about Supabase. Indeed, this platform allows you to build in a weekend. So I'm going to go to confirm password. I'm going to confirm my mail, confirm mail, and you can see that it directs me straight to the home page, right? So that is very great. So we are directed straight to the home page after we click on that link inside the email, right? That is great. So that worked. So this option actually worked. Okay, so if I go back to the Supabase dashboard and so it has already refreshed, and we can see that the last time that I signed in, we have some timestamp over there. Okay, so that is great. So I can log out, and then I'm going to log in again. So I'm going to type in my password and then sign in. Invalid login credentials. I think I made a mistake with my password. I'm going to try that again. Okay, I'm just going to use what is there, and yes, so it worked, right? So that is a basic authentication for you. So we have sign up, sign in, and then we are moved to the home page. Okay, so normally I would like to mention that in a real application, right, you are supposed to use router guards. So you are supposed to check if the user is authenticated before they can access some routes. So if a user comes to the URL bar over here and types maybe /home or /dashboard or something, and the user is not properly authenticated, then you can redirect the user back to the sign-in page so they don't access routes that they are not allowed to access if they are not authenticated. So that is router guard. So you can use that in Vue 3. So this is just to show you how Supabase works. So a simple sign up, a simple sign in to see how the Supabase API works and how it makes you develop things very fast, right? So this is not a complete course. We are not managing states, we are not using router guards, we are not doing anything to check for the security of our website. This is just something basic. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a full course on Supabase. I'm going to be talking about how Supabase works, and we are going to be looking at from the authentication process to storing data to fetching real-time data and all of that, using router guards, using Pinia or Vuex to manage states in your application, and all of those things to make your application a wholesome application. So that's one thing that I'm preparing, and we are going to be looking at that on this YouTube channel. So if you have not subscribed, kindly hit the subscribe button. Okay, so on the Supabase dashboard, you can view the user info. It gives you a dashboard where you can see the user info. So if you're having 100 users, it is going to list all the 100 users over here, and you can see their info. So it has already encrypted the password. It shows you when the email was confirmed, and it gives you a bunch of data that you can work with. This is why I really love Supabase. Okay, so one thing I want to talk about before I go, if you remember that when I did the Supabase configuration, I pasted the anonymous key or the API key over here at first, right, before I moved it to the .env file. I just wanted to mention and reiterate on this that you should never paste in the API key in your code and push that to your Git repository, right? That is very dangerous, because if someone gets access to the API key, then they can have access to your database and your data and all the users in your application. So you should never put the API key inside your code. You should put everything inside the .env file. People name this I think .env.local. You should put everything inside here, and then you should git ignore this particular file, right? So you git ignore this particular file. You just put it inside your git ignore so that you don't end up pushing this to your Git repository, right? So that's one thing I wanted to mention and really iterate on. So this is the basic system. So you sign up, you just call the .signup method, and then you can sign in. Just call the .signin method with password and pass in the credentials of the user. And then for the logout, you just do .sign out, and then you are able to log out the user. So there are other things pertaining to this. There are other features that I've seen, I think magic link and signing up with your social media account and all of that. And as I said, I'm going to do a full course on that, so you can comment in the comment section on some of the projects that you like me to build with Supabase. And thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.